Welcome to Digital Marketing for Contractors, a podcast for home improvement contractors to help you crush your lead goals and take your business to the next level. Join us each episode as we give you powerful insights and practical tips on the best digital marketing strategies to help you grow your home improvement business. Let's get started. Welcome to the Digital Marketing for Contractors podcast. This is a podcast for home improvement contractors to help you crush your lead goals and take your business to the next level. Digital Marketing for Contractors is hosted by Fat Cat Strategies. We are a digital marketing agency out of Raleigh, North Carolina. My name is Don, and I'm one of the account managers here at Fat Cat.
And I'm Janet. I am the founder and managing partner.
All right, and Janet, today we are going to talk about a topic that I know is really exciting for both of us, which is to help our contractors out with figuring out how can I tell what my competitors are doing online. We want to take a little bit of time to just look at, we know that working against your competitors, trying to gain a competitive edge there is really important, but it's not always easy to figure out what that means, especially in terms of digital marketing as opposed to traditional or local boots on the ground marketing. And so we want to spend some time kind of talking about that today. So just right out of the gate, I want to know from you, why is this a big, important topic? Why is this something that we should spend some time talking about?
So Don, often when I first start talking to contractors, I will show them a competitive analysis. And what that does is sort of start the conversation. It helps us as an agency look at who are that contractor's online competitors. And I'm emphasizing the word online because 8 times out of 10, when I show a business that's up and running, they've got customers, they feel like they're really competitive, and I show them, hey, here's a list of 50 companies that look like they're local competitors to you. They often will tell me, I don't even know these companies, or I do know that guy. It's just one guy and his brother, and we're a 50-man team. How can they be my competitor? And to that I say, when it comes to the online world, the homeowner doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
The homeowner has a need. They want new windows. They want a new deck, and they do a search. And it all looks relatively equal to them, especially if there's a local competitor that's doing a really great job online and maybe even a better job than an older, more established company.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So, okay, just for sake of clarity, I'm going to try to put it in some name terms, and you help me make sure that I'm getting it right. So let's say I'm ABC Roofing, and I've got this roofing company, and I know that one of my big competitors is
XYZ Roofing.
Yeah, East Side Roofing.
Right.
Those guys on the other side of the town, and man, we hate those guys. They're always stealing our jobs. We see their trucks out all the time. They're in the same neighborhoods that we are, and gosh, I just wish that we could get a leg up on them. But if I go online and I do a search for roofing contractors near me, I see my name, and then I see Jones Brothers Roofing,
right? Or Mr. Otter, or some weird thing like that,
who I've never heard of, but they're a rank ahead of me on Google. Their name comes up above my business name, and I don't even know who they are. But what you're saying is that's who your online competitor is,
even if
you're not seeing them in the neighborhoods that you're doing business in. The homeowner doesn't know the difference. They just see a roofing company on Google, and they're going to click on them because they're ranked ahead of you.
And in fact, we'll tie it to a very real story, but we won't name any names to protect the innocent. So we have a client right now that installs James Hardie siding. We know that they've installed more Hardie board than any other contractor in the last 10 years because our Hardie contacts tell us that. They say, hey, these guys have ordered more product and installed more residential siding in this metro area than anybody else. But their website stinks.
Yeah.
Because these guys have been focused on building their business.
Yeah.
And they've built it by word of mouth, with yard signs, with fantastic service, competitive pricing, skilled laborers. They've built, a real business.
Yeah. With a great reputation.
With a fantastic word of mouth reputation, which is why they're doing such volume. but they're almost invisible online. And so what we, Fat Cat, are doing right now is we're building them a new website and we're launching an SEO campaign. We talked to these guys yesterday and they laughed and they said, hey, we were at a customer's house and the customer told us, man, I tried to find you guys online and I couldn't.
Yeah.
So, I think today's topic is talking about when you're thinking about your competitors, there's the legitimate established businesses that you probably see as your number one competitor. And maybe in real terms, they are your biggest competitor.
Right, dollar for dollar. Maybe
dollar for dollar, because maybe they're stealing your labor or you steal their labor. Like, it's a very real, healthy competition.
Right.
There's that's in the real world. And then there's what's online.
Yeah. Which for the homeowner, that what's online is actually more of the reality.
That's the homeowner's reality.
Yeah.
Because they don't know your industry. They just know, I want a deck.
Yeah.
I need, I want my kitchen redone. And they're starting at square one and they're looking online because they don't know what else to do. Now, you might be chuckling to yourself and saying, well, we get great word of mouth referrals. Well, what if you're living in a metro area that the population is exploding and there's a bunch of newcomers moving to town, like our area in the Raleigh, Cary, North Carolina area? We have entire neighborhoods north of us that are populated by folks from New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York.
Everywhere but North Carolina.
Everywhere but North Carolina. So if you've got a new transplant that has money to spend, your 30-year reputation, if it's not online, these guys don't know who you are.
Yeah. Don't have a clue, wouldn't even know how to have a clue other than to go do a Google search. And they're going to, if Jones Brothers is outranking them, it doesn't matter that you've never heard of Jones Brothers. Like, that's who that homeowner is probably going to click on first. And so I think you've summed it up great. I think that's really what we're trying to talk about is you got to know what's going on in the competitive landscape online, because it may not be the same competitive landscape that you, the contractor, are aware of. And what's going on online is what really matters to the homeowner. So we want to try to talk through that a little bit and help set you up to be able to kind of figure out, well, what is going on online? How do I know that? What are the places that I need to look to be able to kind of figure those things out?
What are some tools and tips and tricks that you as a contractor can quickly do your own online competitor analysis?
Yeah, because I do think, we're an agency and obviously we love doing this for our clients, but I do think there are some things that you as a contractor can do for yourself without having to have the help of an outside agency, just to get a little bit of a finger on the pulse of what's going on online. So Janet, let's start there and let's just talk about websites. Let's just talk about trying to look at if you do a Google search for roofing contractors near me or whatever your industry is, deck builders near me, bathroom replacement near me, kitchen remodelers, whatever your industry is, you're doing a search for that and you're seeing the, top 15 or so contractors that come up, and you want to click on those links and go look at their websites. What do you want to look at when you go spend some time on those websites to see how does this help give me a picture of what my competitors are doing online? What am I looking for?
Well, I'll tell you what we look for. And the first bullet on that checklist is kind of hard to describe. I call it like a gut check. In the first microsecond that you look at a website, what is your overall impression? Is your overall impression professionalism, organized? Do you want to do business? I mean, and we've all done enough searches on the internet,
right? Yeah,
where you hit that website, where you go, what?
Yeah,
maybe
are these people on top of it, or does this look like it was done in the 80s and nobody's touched it since then?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So going back to your exercise that we're talking about, Don. So you're a contractor, you sit down. I would recommend, and you can criticize me for being old school, I would not recommend that you start this exercise on your phone. I would get a cup of coffee and I would sit in front of a desktop computer, but I would have my phone by my side and maybe a notebook.
Yeah.
And you need to do a search on your desktop computer and then maybe in a paper notebook with a pen, write down the list of competitors. Because once you start clicking, you're going to get lost in the internet.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do is you're trying to stay focused on that first list. And so the very first thing you need to do is sort of write down, what is the name of the company that is the first search result? What is the name of the company that's the second, third, fourth, fifth? Then maybe go click into those. And, I'm going to be a little bit of a computer nerd, but if you're doing this on a desktop computer and you've got a mouse, you can right click and open those links in a new tab. So now you've got a browser with a bunch of tabs open.
Yeah, it keeps you from losing your original search.
It keeps you from losing your original search. Then, go look at each of those companies' websites and do that first gut check and maybe make some notes. And at this point, you're making notes from your own perspective. Like, oh, I really like this video on the homepage, or, oh, they've got a spring offer, or, they're hiring. What are your initial impressions of these companies? Then from there, we're going to depart a little bit, and everybody's going to do this a little bit of a different way, because depending on what it is that you're looking for, you may be doing an analysis of your competitors to see how many of them are hiring. I mean, we're in a very competitive job market right now. Or you may be doing an analysis to see, like, how many of them are doing roofing and siding.
Yeah.
Or how many, when I search on siding, have started doing other services like windows.
Sure.
So whatever that next layer of research is, then I would go through that list that's on that first page and make notes of that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a low tech. And okay, circling back around. So you're doing this on a desktop computer. You've got a piece of paper beside you. Why do you have your phone laying on the desk? I would go through that list and then pick 3 to 5 that you think, wow, these guys are really knocking it out of the park. I love their website. I love what they're doing. Then go look at those sites on your phone, because it's going to be a different experience on the phone than it is on the desktop.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell somebody to do if they wanted to spend a Saturday morning getting an understanding of their local competitive landscape.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I would kind of add to that, just from the perspective of, an account manager who goes and tries to do some of this for our clients. Some of the things that I'll try to do to just, get a little bit of a peek in the window of what's going on with these, competitor contractors. You kind of mentioned, like, look for, do they have any kind of offer going on? So
Yes.
I think that's super helpful for even just understanding your own strategy, like figuring out, what are my competitors offering right now? Do they have offers of, is it a dollar amount off? Is it a percentage off?
Is it a financing offer?
Yeah. What's going on with the competitor landscape online in terms of offers? Because maybe you're behind on that. If your competitor's offering $1,000 off and you're offering $500 off, well, which one of those do you think a homeowner just searching online is going to pick? That's not hard to figure out. So just kind of understanding where your offer is at, if you have one, in comparison to your competitors, is super helpful. I like to look too just at, like, services and products. What are your competitors doing?
Their mix?
Yeah, what's their mix? What manufacturers are they using? All those kinds of things. You may have a competitor in your area who's using the same manufacturer's products that you are, that you didn't even know about, and your manufacturer didn't tell you. And so, figuring those kinds of things out can be really important to just making sure, like, you understand what you're actually up against. So that's a big one. Another, like, sneaky one for me, and this isn't true on every website, but one that, if you can find it, I think is really helpful. If that contractor has any kind of online newsletter that you can sign up for on their website, sign up for it. Put your email address in. They're probably never going to know that a competitor signed up for their newsletter.
Use a Gmail address.
Yeah, use your personal account or something, but get on their email list and find out what they're sending out every month. If it's an offer, if it's, some other kind of promotional thing, if it's just company news, like, that's a great way to just stay up to date on what your competitors are doing, because it's going to come to your email inbox every month or every couple weeks, however often they send it out. But easy one to do if you can find it.
So I'll add on. So we're now, like, we're starting at the top and then we're drilling deeper and deeper and deeper. So my top of the list is, like, first impressions. And then you went to promotions and offers and if you can sign up for a newsletter. So, I don't know if this is third or second. We could debate the order, but depending on where your business is and what you think is your next evolution to improve your business and make you more competitive. One other thing that you could look for, in addition to the basics of what are your competitors' services, is it roofing, decks, windows, siding, whatever, plus their competitors, you can also look for technology that they're using, because they will brag about it on their website.
Yeah.
For example, in the roofing world and the siding world, a lot of contractors will use Hover or something like it. So from a homeowner's perspective, if the homeowner has an opportunity to download an app and take some pictures and do some of the initial investigation by themselves and get a friction-free quote, it's an easy process for the homeowner, then that's technology that your competitors have in place. And from the homeowner's perspective, getting a quote from you could be a lot more difficult and time-consuming than getting a quote from one of your competitors.
Right. Yeah.
So what's the list that we've gone over? We've gone over like first impressions, what do they offer, where are they located, sign up for their newsletter, and then I'm adding on, kind of snoop around and see like what do they have going on behind the scenes in terms of technology that they're using.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I'll
gonna add on.
Well,
I like this game.
I'll kind of pivot a little bit and move from there because I liked what you said about let's start out on the desktop and then move to the phone eventually. And I don't know if this is what you were thinking about when you said that, but one of the reasons that I think that's helpful too is that if you start out on the phone doing a search for, contractors near me, whatever. What is likely to pop up on your phone is not a list of links with websites, but may actually be Google Business Profiles.
Yep.
You might see those first, or you might see a map section that has links to Google Business Profiles. And that's also really important to be able to know, what you're up against in terms of competitors. The list of Google Business Profiles is going to probably be different than the list of paid ads and organic links that are on that Google search page. And so you may even get a different list of competitors starting there than you would in another place. But paying attention to those Google Business Profiles is really important for you to look at for yourself, because I guarantee you that homeowners are looking at that. They're especially looking at
from their phone.
Yeah, from their phone. They're especially looking at ratings and reviews. What does your company have in terms of how many 5-star reviews do you have? How many negative reviews do you have? What's your overall rating on Google? Like, they're paying attention to all of those things. And if you're lagging behind, even if you're a reputable contractor in your area and you do great business, but your Google Business Profile says you have 3 ratings and your, star review is a 3.7, like that's a red flag for a homeowner, regardless of what your boots on the ground reputation is. They look at that and that's going to steer them away. So paying attention to both what your Google Business Profile looks like and what your competitors look like is really helpful to know, do I need to be doing something here to get this updated and get better reviews and rankings and all of that?
Don, do you think that we should spend a few minutes here, just a few minutes, diving into like what is a Google Business Profile? I know we've done podcasts on it. We're working on a course with this information. We have some downloadable material on our website, but
I think I'd say we do have an episode that's kind of dedicated to, I think at the time we recorded the episode, we called it Google My Business, and Google has since changed the name of it. So you can go back and look for the Google My Business episode and get a little more of a deep dive. But yeah, just real quickly, give us an overview of what we're talking about for Google Business Profile.
The number one confusion I hear from contractors is when they're just looking on their phone, they don't necessarily recognize the difference between a Google Business Profile and a business's website.
Right.
So I always like to go back to a restaurant metaphor. If you do, pizza near me, you're going to end up on your phone with a list, with a map probably. And then when you click in, if you've had that experience on your phone where you see the name of the restaurant and then you see a button to click to get directions, or you can immediately click a button to dial the phone number, or you can see hours or maybe even menu items. That whole screen is a Google Business Profile, and it will often link to the pizza restaurant's website, but it is not the same thing as the website.
Right. And especially for retail businesses, you can just about get everything done that you want to get done right through that Google Business Profile without ever having to go to the website. So that isn't completely true for contractors, but your homeowners don't necessarily know that. And if they're used to using Google Business Profiles to kind of get everything done, then when they're searching for, I want to get my deck redone, what they know is how to use and navigate that Google Business Profile. And if you don't have one, or yours isn't up to date, or it's lacking information, then your competitor is going to beat you out on that, just because that's what homeowners are used to using on the digital landscape.
And the Google Business Profile drives the SEO algorithm. So from the most basic perspective of a homeowner is searching either on a desktop or a tablet or their phone, and they say roofing contractors near me, the list of businesses that show up on whatever device they're using, the way Google determines who's going to show up, a huge part of that algorithm is built on those Google Business Profiles.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so since you mentioned that, let's kind of, I think this is the last thing that I want to touch on in terms of saying, we've been talking about like, what are some things that you as a contractor can do for yourself? And we'll get in a minute to like, what's something that you really want to hire an agency to be able to do for you. But I think kind of the last thing I would say that I think a contractor can do for themselves, that's a little more technical than what we've talked about so far, but I think is still within reach, is to do some research like you just talked about on SEO and PPC rankings, just to kind of see where are you and where are your competitors as it relates to, rankings for certain keywords. And keywords is just a fancy marketing term for what do you type in to Google, or what do you say to your phone when you're doing a search? The things that people are actually searching for, where that are relevant to your business. Where are you ranking for those things? And I know, Janet, one of the things that you love to talk about is that when people type in something that they're searching for on Google, you get results on what's called a search engine results page.
Or a SERP, if we're going to be nerds.
And yeah, exactly, which we are when it comes to marketing. That's fine. We should be. On that search engine results page, on that SERP, if you're going to rank at the top of the page, what are we actually talking about when we're talking about the top of the page? What shows up first? And then,
oh my goodness,
then
now
let's
you've
get
hit on
into what else shows up on the page.
So I love this topic because I actually really like teaching, and so I do all the sales for Fat Cat. So I'm usually the first person that folks talk to, and I get so many questions from contractors, and I welcome them, and I love to try to educate people whether they decide to work with us or not.
Yeah.
And so, a contractor will say, I want to be number one on Google. And I'll say, well, let me tell you that may not mean what you think it means, or that doesn't mean anything.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to try to paint a picture with words. I'm going to envision in my mind and paint a picture with words of a desktop result. So let's say I am at my work computer and I want to be meeting with some painting contractors next week.
Yeah.
So on my lunch break, I'm at work and I type in painting contractors near me. If I look at the browser and just picture it as a rectangle, it's just a rectangle. What is the percentage of space of that rectangle that's taken up at the top by paid ads?
Yeah.
If you're on a desktop computer these days, it's close to 30%.
Yeah.
So the first 2 or 3 results.
Or if you're on a small desktop or like a laptop, it might be 50 or 60%.
Exactly. It kind of depends on the size of your monitor. So remember, the browser is just a rectangle. What is the percent that's taken up by ads? So if you are saying to us as an agency or to your staff or whatever, I want to be number one on Google, these days, the bad news, cold water on the conversation is Google wants your money in order to do that.
Because the top of the page on Google is always paid. Always.
They own that rectangle.
Yeah.
It's their field, and we just play on it when they let us.
Yeah, right.
If they let us. Yeah. So those search results, the first handful, you can imagine it as a handful or as like a percentage of visual space is going to be paid. Mm-hmm. The next batch is usually the map pack.
Yeah.
That is a map on a desktop that shows up as a map on a phone. It looks slightly different, but it's going to be those Google Business Profiles or what's driving the map pack. Below the map, often these days are more ads.
Yeah.
Then below that is a section called People Also Ask.
Right. It's just kind of question and answer sort of stuff
It's
that
Google,
may or may not actually
right.
be
It's
a website to go
Google's
to.
AI saying, oh, if this person searched on painting contractors near me, they may also be interested in the topic of what is the best paint for my kitchen. So you'll see a list of question and answer pairs that Google is trying to anticipate that you might also be interested in. So below the ads, below the map, below more ads, and below People Also Ask, that's when you get your number one, quote unquote, organic SEO search result.
Yeah. So way down the page.
But it still matters.
It still matters. And I think most people searching Google today are savvy enough to be able to see the difference between ads and what we as marketers call organic. And there's a decent amount of people who will just bypass the ads because they know those are being paid for and they want to see what are actually the real organic results and be able to find those. So it's still important being able to rank well in all of those categories, but you just have to know, showing up where you want to show up may be more than just, I need to have good SEO content, or, when you say you want to rank number one, you need to understand what that might mean, that there's different areas to rank number one in, and depending on
different time of day, different devices, right?
Yeah. And how that's going to show up. So, okay, let me take all of that, what you just said, which is super helpful, and now kind of turn it to like, okay, so knowing that as a contractor, what do I do with that? Like, why does that matter? And how do I kind of figure that out about what it means to be what my competitors are doing? So here's what I would suggest. I would suggest make a list of about 3 or 4 big keywords that are important to your business. So if that's, like you said, painting, so if that's painting contractors near me, residential painting, maybe it's a certain room of the house that people are trying to paint, bathroom painting, whatever it is. What are the kind of big keywords that you want to make sure, like if people are searching for these things, that you want to show up for? And then I would we use a certain site that's called isearchfrom.com. This is a great little site to try to figure out, because I think one thing that contractors don't always know is that when you search on Google, it's basing your search results upon where you are searching from, like the actual
meaning where on the planet.
Yes, exactly.
Where on earth are you?
Mm-hmm. And your results will change if you go to the next town and do that same search.
Yes.
So you need to be aware that that matters and will affect your results, especially if you're a contractor that's in multiple locations. If you are trying to find out what the search results are in another location for homeowners that live there, that's different than if you live in another town where your kind of headquarters is and you're doing your search there. You're going to get different results than those homeowners. So all that to say, go to isearchfrom.com and you can actually kind of mimic what it would look like to do a search from that location and see what their results are. So put in your keyword, put in painting contractors near me, put in,
you have to pick your town.
Yeah, pick your town.
You have to pick your location and device on the iSearch from interface.
Capital city, whatever, put in the name of your town. And then what will pop up is basically a Google search page, and it'll give you the results. And then what I would do from there is to just go down the page and to make notes. Where are you ranking in the paid area? Where are you ranking in the map area? Where are you ranking in the SEO organic area? Just, make a list of those things. How many spots is it before you show up? And then make notes of your competitors. So what you're going to start to see probably on this Google search page is that a lot of your quote unquote competitors are big national brands. They may be things like Home Depot or
Angie's
Lowe's.
List.
Yeah. Or other lead aggregators like Angie's. They may be your manufacturers. They may be other, big national brands that aren't really your actual local competitors, but they are taking up landscape on the things that you are trying to search for. And so you need to be aware of that as well. It doesn't mean you need to try to compete with them, but you just need to know that they're going to affect your results for showing up.
I would add in that often when we do these competitive analysis, we'll use all these tools. We'll put in a relevant search phrase. We'll start to survey the battleground. Often the battleground is populated with, like you said, Lowe's Home Improvement, Home Depot, all the lead aggregators, Angie's List, Quinn Street, Modernize, all of these, they're just trying to capture these search terms where homeowners are showing intent to hire a contractor because they want to capture that information and then sell it to you and sell it to all of your competitors. The other thing that I've found that will take up space on that first page search result, often you'll see national magazines like Better Homes and Gardens. I actually see a lot of search results from This Old House with Bob Vila or bobvila.com.
Yep.
So, I don't want to leave listeners discouraged that they can't compete, because you can. But I guess my big message that I want to take out into the world is really try not to be discouraged. So what if you don't show up on the first page for this really competitive, and some of the examples that we're using are actually super competitive search terms, like painting contractors near me.
Yeah, very competitive.
That is a very competitive, and you are going to be competing with Angie's List, and they have more money than you do.
Yep.
But if you get your online presence in line, you can still be very competitive in your local market. And in fact, when we do analysis of actual leads generated for our home improvement contractors, even if they are not showing up on some of those first page results for those super competitive search terms, when we look at actual leads generated, often at least half will come from SEO search terms.
Yeah.
So those might be what we call like long tail search terms, where, it was a more specific search phrase that a homeowner landed on. But I think we've kind of strayed from the original topic of like, how can you tell what your competitors are doing? We got into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, we took a deep dive. I think
Yeah.
it's helpful information.
Yeah.
This is how I would sort of just wrap it up, is to say, we have kind of started this episode with the things that would be simplest and easy for you to do, and we have kind of ended it with the things that are probably the most complex and time consuming. And so you might be sitting here listening like, how in the world
I ain't got time for
yeah,
that.
when am I going to do that? Or even, go back and listen to this episode to figure out how to do some of these things. Hey, look, we get it. That's why we exist as an agency, is to be able to help you out with some of this, because the digital landscape is complicated. It is difficult sometimes to be able to really get a wholesale picture of what's going on. And that's what we specialize in. So a couple things for you there. If you feel like, hey, I really want some help with this, like this is important to me, but I don't have the time to be able to devote to it, that's what we're here for. You can go check us out at fatcatstrategies.com and just kind of see what sort of services we offer and how we might be able to help you out. But we've got one in particular that I think could be a great service to you, and that's that we provide a competitor analysis. So if you want to go to FatCat
For free.
Yes. If you want to go to fatcatstrategies.com/competitors, you can sign up for a competitor analysis for you and up to 3 of your competitors. And we will do a lot of the things that we have talked about on this podcast episode to be able to give you a glimpse into what's going on with you versus your competitors. And then to try to decide from there, is this anything that you want to do with that information?
Yeah.
Do you need some help with your digital strategy to be able to address those things? Or we might tell you, hey, you're looking great. You don't need our help at all. And that's fantastic. But that's why we do it for free, is because we want to help you be able to get a lens into that world and to see if you do need some help and what would be most effective. So again, fatcatstrategies.com/competitors to sign up for your free competitive analysis. Okay. I think we'll leave it there. This has been a really great and interesting deep dive into the world of digital competition. I hope it's been helpful for you. And we will look forward to talking to you on the next episode of Digital Marketing for Contractors. We'll see you. Digital Marketing for Contractors is created by Fat Cat Strategies. For more information, visit fatcatstrategies.com.